Some places wait, some places watch, and some begin to walk. Black Hollow had always been a boundary, a fixed point, a wound in the landscape that never healed. But after the well awakened in episode 4, the hollow began to change. Not in the way forests change, with seasons, storms, or time. It changed with intention, with direction, with hunger. The first sign came from a man named Harold Briggs, a hunter, a man who knew the woods better than he knew his own house. He had walked every trail, mapped every ridge, tracked every animal. But on the night it happened, the forest he knew was not the forest he entered. Harold said the trees were wrong, not different. Wrong. Shifted. Rearranged. As if someone had picked them up and set them down in new positions. He said the air felt compressed. He said the ground felt tense. He said the forest felt like a lung holding a breath too long. At 9:14 p.m., Harold radioed his wife. He said he was lost. He said the trail had vanished. He said the trees were moving. She asked if he meant the wind. He said there was no wind. He said the trees were moving on their own. The radio cut out. Harold Briggs was found the next morning half a mile from where he should have been. His boots were clean. His clothes were dry. His body was intact. But his eyes were open, and his expression was frozen in a look of recognition, as if he had seen something he knew. The sheriff wrote it off as exposure, disorientation, a fall. But the sheriff was lying, because Harold's footprints told a different story. They didn't lead to where he was found. They led in circles, perfect circles, as if he had been walking around something he couldn't see. Something that moved when he moved. Something that followed him step for step. The second sign came from the elementary school. Again. A teacher named Ms. Lorne was closing her classroom when she saw something at the tree line. A shape. Tall. Still. Facing the building. She thought it was a person. A trespasser. A lost hiker. But when she blinked, the shape was closer. Not walked closer. Not stepped closer. Just closer. As if the distance between them had been removed. She locked the door, turned off the lights, called the sheriff. When he arrived, the shape was gone. But the grass where it had stood was flattened in a perfect circle. A circle identical to the one found around Harold Briggs. The sheriff didn't sleep that night. He sat in his truck facing the hollow with the engine running and the headlights on. At 3:12 a.m., the trees shifted. Not swayed. Shifted. A line of pines tilted as if something massive had brushed past them. The sheriff stepped out of the truck, listened, held his breath. The forest exhaled. A long, low, resonant sound, like air being pushed through a throat too narrow for it. Then the sheriff heard footsteps. Not human. Not animal. Something heavier. Something deliberate. Something that walked with purpose. He backed away, got into his truck, locked the doors. But the footsteps didn't follow him. They followed the road. As if the forest itself was moving toward town. The next morning, people found trees where there had been no trees. Branches overhanging roads that had been clear the day before. Roots breaking through sidewalks that had been smooth. The hollow was expanding. Not growing. Expanding. As if the boundary of the forest was no longer fixed. As if the forest had decided to come closer. The sheriff called an emergency meeting. He told the town council that the hollow was changing shape, that the well was active, that people were seeing things. They told him he was tired, overworked, paranoid. They told him forests don't move. But that night, the council president woke to a sound outside her bedroom window. Breathing. Slow. Deep. Close. She opened the curtains. A tree was pressed against the glass. A tree that had not been there the day before. Its bark was wet. Its branches were trembling. Its trunk was angled, as if it had leaned in to listen. She screamed. The sheriff arrived minutes later. The tree was gone. But the ground beneath the window was churned as if something heavy had dragged itself away. The sheriff knew what was happening. He had seen it in the hollow. He had felt it in the well. The forest was not expanding. It was hunting. And it was getting closer. The final sign came from a security camera outside the gas station on Route 7. At 2:41 a.m., the camera captured a figure walking along the road. A woman, barefoot, clothes torn, hair matted. She walked slowly, unsteadily, like someone learning how to move again. The clerk thought she was injured. He stepped outside, called out, "Ma'am, do you need help?" The woman turned. Her face was wrong. Not faceless, not blank. Wrong. Like someone had tried to reconstruct a face from memory and gotten the details slightly off. The clerk froze. The woman took a step toward him, then another. Then she whispered something. The audio was faint, distorted, barely audible. But the sheriff recognized the word when he reviewed the footage. Mara. The woman took one more step. Then she vanished. Not walked away. Not ran. Vanished. As if the space she occupied had been erased. The sheriff closed the laptop, sat in silence, realized the truth. Mara was not returning. Something wearing Mara was. And the forest behind her was moving. Black Hollow is no longer a place. It is no longer a boundary. It is no longer contained. It is spreading, reaching, searching, and whatever walks in the hollow now is walking toward town.